right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of The Sportsmen. We got Mikey Bear Down Cuz to my left. We got Joey Cold Cuts down below. And boys, we missed some time here, but I'm glad to see you boys back. Mikey V in the Ohio State. How you doing, buddy?
Good. We didn't
miss any time. What time?
Yeah, but there's been a lot that's happened since the last time we spoke, and we did miss. Yes, I mean, we're coming out at
we're a day
late. But you know what? When was the last time we actually came
and a
out
dollar
on
short?
Wednesday?
A day late and a dollar short.
That is true. We might have
as well just change to Thursdays. I mean, honestly.
Hey, listen.
It's crazy because we're supposed to film on Tuesdays, and you would think it's a day that really nothing happens. There has been something going on a Tuesday night for like the last 2 months. We're traveling next week, taking on a Tuesday again.
I know.
It's unbelievable. It's the stars have aligned that Tuesdays turn out to be our busiest days. We thought it'd be the easiest day to record. So I think maybe we got to, we haven't recorded a thing on Tuesday in ages. Maybe we got to push the day back to Thursday release. But we haven't missed an episode, which is the main thing that needs to be focused.
That's
we're
correct.
Still pumping out the pods, we're still coming in hot and heavy. And by the way, the last few episodes have been heaters.
Yeah, gas.
They've been gasoline. They've been good.
Gasoline.
You could say that we're kind of picking up some steam here. And Mikey V's send off on the last episode was one of the more electrifying Sportsman podcast moments that I can remember. And to be honest, like, you know what? Maybe people need to wait an extra day because the last couple episodes have been gas.
Like, comment, subscribe for the gas that we've been throwing recently, especially for Mikey V. Gentlemen, let's jump into things. Big news that broke, I believe, yesterday morning, but possibly the day before. ESPN Penn deal basically forcing Barstool out. Portnoy buys Barstool back 100% of it, and Penn's going to start running their own book with ESPN. ESPN's jumping in the game. So, Joey D, let me get your thoughts on that first. What do you think about both Portnoy buying back Barstool and then ESPN going into the book business?
What I don't understand is, well, first of all, I don't understand now the Barstool Sportsbook. Is that just going to be gone? Is that no longer going to be a thing? They're going to remove that.
Yep.
So what happens now? You have money in that
account.
Is it just you're settled up and that's it? Or do they give you like a grace period before they remove that? Do we know how that works? I mean, that's bizarre to me.
So there's no grace period. It's gone. That's part of the stipulation of the purchase by Portnoy. From my understanding, I read into it last night of the bullet points of like what exactly the deal entailed, and like people think that. Yeah, he didn't spend a lot of money at all to buy it back. But now if Barstool ever liquidates, right, and it ever does sell, 50%, half of whatever it sells for goes to Penn, right? Penn gets 50% of any liquidity out of Barstool if they end up liquidating in the long run. Barstool can't pump Barstool Sportsbook anymore. They don't have a sportsbook anymore from what I understand. They can't have one. And for Penn, I think it's a good deal for both. I think Portnoy wants to run that company. It's a pirate ship company, right? It's his way. He wants to have total creative control. You could tell the changes that happened, or they had to let go of people that they didn't want to let go of. They had to, censor things that I know they didn't want to censor. I'm sure they lost a lot of opportunities with the book because of the regulations in the states, and the states didn't want to deal with them because of the conflict of interest from some of the things going on with the sports book. It was difficult for them to get in a lot of states because of the way they handle business through some of their, influencers and stuff like that. And not to say they're not doing anything illegal. I'm not saying that, but these regulators in these states are like very, very, very conservative, ultra strict on the rules of tying sports books into like your conduct and making sure that there's no cheating or influencing of athletes. And that was the concern there. And so I think the deal, people should really read into it a little bit more because it's not as simple and as plain as Portnoy just buying it back. And now, yes, it's 100% his again, but there's a lot of caveats. And I think Penn makes out here. I think Penn, makes out with this deal because now they're in bed with ESPN. ESPN tried to bring Barstool on for some things and immediately dumped them because of, again, the Disney values didn't match up to their values, whatever. But you know what? People want values. People want to be able to watch stuff like Barstool. People want to be able to watch stuff like ESPN. There's a lid for every pot. So it makes sense. But I think Penn did well. I do. I don't think they got hosed or anything like that.
My biggest takeaways are two things. The first thing is that I think it's good that Portnoy is coming back, because there have been significant downfalls in Barstool that to me is noticeable since he's kind of stepped away in the last year. I feel like it's become way more corporate. It's way less funny and unique like it used to be. And the stock is falling. There's no way to, at least from a value in terms of content, it's disintegrated. So I think him coming back and like managing it again will kind of amp it up. The other thing too is just how intertwined now sports and sports gambling have become. To the, like, you can't now turn on a TV and like someone like my dad, it drives him nuts because he's old school. He doesn't like to gamble. He hates anything like that. And I get that. They have the lines on the ticker now coming down on the odds, the over-unders and stuff like that. So like some people don't like it, but it's just become integrated within sports now. So like something like ESPN, I'm not surprised that they're jumping on an opportunity like this. So they make out well. Penn makes out well. I think at the end of the day, like you said, Mikey, to me, it's going to be a plus for everybody, because I think Barstool is going to get its edge back, having Portnoy at the helm and really owning and running it the way that he wants to.
That's the whole key. I think the censorship thing, and I think that's why you've seen like, I wouldn't go as far as say like that what they put out is deteriorated, but I will say, like you said in the beginning, Joe, it's noticeably different, the content that they've been putting out. And I think if you look at the comments on their main page and you see most of those comments, like they get roasted a lot in the comments for some of the things that they post on the main page. But I do think that's because creative control and censorship kind of from Penn influenced a lot of that, because they still have guys, obviously, like we all know Jerry, and he's a renegade. And they still have Big Cat, and they still have Caleb doing the Sunday conversations, and that content is superb content. Like that stuff is.
Well, those guys are going to Chicago, though. No.
Yeah, well, but even still, I'm just saying the content that they put out for the company is it's stellar stuff. But yeah, I think that now it's going to get back to a little bit more gritty, a little bit more what we're used to seeing from Barstool, as opposed to like some of those posts on the main feed, which were a little weird.
It is weird and off color. As far as I agree with you guys. I think as face value, I don't think anyone really loses. I think in the long term, my prediction would be that, for all the reasons that we're talking about with Barstool, how it's become a little stale. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but from what I've been perceiving with streaming services and all this, ESPN has become a little stale. A few weeks ago, we were talking ESPN about stinks. How no one watches sports anymore. No one's watching any of these shows anymore. So I'm not sure, other than the Pat McAfee thing, which was obviously, it makes so much more sense now. Obviously, that was a big deal that they all had together. They promised him they're bringing Penn to the sports book, and you're going to be a big part of that. But other than that, ESPN is also stale. I don't know how, in a saturated market with DraftKings and FanDuel, how ESPN is going to pierce that market and make it a bigger splash than Barstool Sportsbook did. That's
what they were showing. They were showing those percentages in the article that I read, like that FanDuel controls 41% and DraftKings controls like 37%. And then the next one that was closest, like Barstool only had like or Penn only had a 7% share of that market, or something very, very minuscule. So it's tough to tread water in the big leagues. You need a lot of startup cash, right? You need a lot of, or you need some type of unique angle to compete with those two guys and then, I didn't even see the percentages on like a BetMGM or a Caesars Sportsbook or any of those, like Bet365, all those other major ones that are backed by billion dollar companies and billionaires. Like, I just like, that's a tough place. But again, ESPN, Disney has that kind of money though. I mean, and
they have
just
the
laid
money,
off a ton of people.
They have the money, but I don't think they have the fan. I think they're 10 years too late on this. Both obviously they're late getting into the sportsbook game, but their brand has deteriorated in such a way for the last 10 years that they just aren't going to have the pull. They're going to be pushing Scott Van Pelt, and they're going to be pushing
and I love
Pat McAfee. And
that's
going to be their two big draws.
Oh,
I used to like him until they gave him a studio where his name is everywhere in the studio.
He's a big guy for them.
It's just too much. But bringing it back to the Barstool side of things with the Portnoy thing, I'm a little excited about it, but it does feel a little bit like when an old coach or an old quarterback who's retired and he says, all right, I'm going to come back, and everyone gets fucking jazzed for it. But then it's a little disappointing. I hope it's not. I hope he restores it and gets great creators back in there and they start making great stuff again. But I'm also a little hesitant to feel like the old Barstool's coming back because he's a little older and he's not a hungry dog anymore. And hungry dogs run faster.
Yeah, they do.
Hey, Brett Favre had a pretty good stint in Minnesota.
And with the Jets for like a year.
Yeah.
Until
that's
he got
true.
Shoulder dislocated or whatever.
That's true.
Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay.
Hey, it can't happen. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Let's move on to something I'm sure Mikey V is interested in talking about, excited to talk about. He's a big Big Ten guy. College football, we've shaken it up. Pac-10's basically, or Pac-12 rather, is basically gone. Stanford and Cal to ACC. As a UCLA guy, I'm awfully curious as to where my team's going. What's going to happen with them? They seem to be, well, yeah, but they're floating around and it's ridiculous. What are you guys just? Ohio.
They're in the Big Ten now.
I know, but we're going to be traveling. We're going to be traveling so much. Forget these kids' education.
Well,
by the time
concerning.
we get to Columbus to play you guys, once we've already traveled to West Virginia, once we've already traveled to Happy Valley, we're going to be gassed. We're going to be so tired.
They're going to have to, obviously, the Big Ten. Well, here's the thing is that college football is being put in a vacuum right now. Between the NIL deals, the expansion of the college football playoff, and now the conference realignment, like the SEC and the Big Ten are absorbing everything. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. The ACC is kind of still floating. The Big 12, still has a couple names in it. But like the SEC and the Big Ten are kind of just like putting college football into a vacuum. When they do these schedules now and they do the conference realignment for the Big Ten, which they're going to do after this year, they're going to have to figure out the scheduling. It's going to be very important, Ticket, because to your point, you cannot expect Rutgers in New Jersey, in Piscataway, New Jersey, Rutgers, who's not a great program at all. A program that's mismatched.
Program last year.
They had some okay years.
They never ever beat the big teams ever. Not usually. They play them close.
In basketball, they're good.
But what I'm saying is for football, you cannot have a team like Rutgers play against Penn State on a Saturday and then go and play USC in California the next time. Yeah. They're going to have to make those trips make sense when you play West Coast versus East Coast. They're going to have to divvy it up however they're going to do it. Maybe you won't see the West Coast teams play the East Coast teams that often. Maybe like once a year there'll be one or two games where an East Coast team plays a West Coast team on the schedule, maybe at the very beginning and at the very end, and that's it. Now, Ohio State has played USC not recently, but not too long ago in a home and away series. They've played Oregon very recently in a home and away series. So Ohio State is used to, and big schools, the blue chip programs, USC, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, they're used to scheduling out of conference games like that. Those home and away series, they schedule those like 8-10 years in advance. And sometimes that's why when you see your team play an out of conference powerhouse that used to be a powerhouse and they no longer are, you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Why are they playing this team when they've been down bad? Like Ohio State played Miami about 12 years ago like that. It was because when they originally scheduled it, the other team was really, really good, right? But a lot could happen in 8 years, 10 years down the road where you play it. So I don't know how they're going to work the schedule. But to me, that's the most important thing about how they realign the conference and how they're going to make the schedule work, because these are not professional athletes, allegedly, right? Even though now they're getting paid, they're allegedly supposed to be going to class every day. They're supposed to be doing, like, how do you expect how do you expect them, though, really to be able to do that on a week-to-week basis if they're flying back and forth to California? Like, that's not sustainable. So I think the scheduling is going to be the biggest thing that they got to figure out.
Kids take online courses anyways,
and I'm sure they might. I'm sure you're right. I mean, and that's, I got not, listen, I'm not one to say like that's not the way it should be. These kids, if it weren't for some of these programs, these schools would have no money. They would have no money. I mean, these are billion-dollar valuation programs. Texas, Ohio State, USC, Oklahoma, Alabama. These bring hundreds and hundreds of millions and are valuated at near $1 billion programs for their respective universities.
Yeah. Joey D, anything?
I just want to watch college football again. I don't give a fuck who plays who. We need football back.
Listen, it's going to be a great thing, though. I mean, like,
it's disappointing for me.
The biggest, you go, Joe. The biggest thing for me is that it always fucks with basketball and these conference alignments, because football's king, as it should be. But as we've said on the show, and how much we hate NBA, but we love college basketball, the unfortunate byproduct of all these shaken up conferences that seem to happen every 10 years, every 8 years, is basketball is always one of the victims of it. Because, 10, 15 years ago, the Big East was some of the most exciting basketball you could ever watch. I would argue that it's some of the best sports you could ever watch was old Big East, like UConn and Syracuse and all those teams just going back and forth. One of those teams always ended up winning the championship there for a while. And it was just great. And the Big 12 shakeup fucked a lot of that up, and the Big 10 shakeup fucked a lot of that up, and it continues to fuck up a lot of basketball programs. So, Mikey V, I guess I would ask you, this is something that's been going on in my head ever since then, is what would happen if these conferences just went away and these programs just scheduled their own game? Like, what? I'm sure there's a problem, and there's a reason.
You'd be like Notre Dame, but it's tough to sustain something like that because, Notre Dame is a different animal. Notre Dame, because of what they did in prior lives to before we were even born, the history of that program, they've been independent now for however long, and they have a exclusive deal with NBC television, right? And that is what the bottom line is in college football, is the television deals, deals and the television money. And now you're going to bring these schools from the Pac-12. They're going to be playing in prime time spots, not West Coast. Of course, they're going to be playing some West Coast time zone games, obviously. But, they're going to be on the Big Ten Network. They're going to be on ABC. They're going to be on ESPN. They're going to get the prime time games. You're going to get Oregon against Michigan on like a random Saturday night, just because now you don't have to wait for out of conference scheduling that's going to happen once every lunar eclipse. It happens. Like, now it's going to be a regular thing each and every year. So for them to just dissolve the conferences altogether, you got to remember how many other sports are reliant on football. Like, they wouldn't have some of these other sports programs that bring no bodies into the seats. Like, and I'm not trying to insult anybody that does other collegiate sports. I'm not. I'm just telling it like it is. Like swimming. Like, the swim program, the field hockey program, other sports that they draw no money to the university. They're all sustained by the basketball teams, by the football teams. So the conferences, I don't think it's not like they can disallow it, obviously, because I'm sure the Pac-12 commissioner didn't want these schools to leave. It's ultimately up to the universities. But I think playing in a conference, especially a prestigious conference, is just they're following the money. I think they're just following the money.
I don't think it's good though. I don't think it's good because it takes away, like, the Pac-12 was a great division in football years ago with USC and Oregon were powerhouses. And now it's like, you know what?
It's
now
still good. I mean, listen, it's just now it's good. Utah, Washington, I mean, yeah, well, now
Arizona, it's done now.
It's done.
But if you had before, you had UCLA, USC, and then
Stanford.
Oregon, and then you Stanford.
Utah, Washington. I mean, these are all good football teams. And I mean, listen, here's the thing: is you guys watch them because you're on the West Coast, right? But the major markets on the East Coast, like, really nobody knows too much about Pac-12 football.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. And I think, again, and the money programs, the programs that have the biggest valuations are all Southern or East Coast Atlantic teams. And they're following the money. They're following the money. And I can't say as though I blame them. It's going to bring them on a bigger stage than they already were on. And it was a pretty big stage they were on. And I just think that's what they're going to do. Do I think it's good? No, you're ruining a lot of traditional rivalries. You're ruining a lot of things for people who are, grew up watching it. But, money talks and bullshit walks. That's the way it goes. That's life. That's life.
Yeah. I mean, we can end with this. I lived in Charleston for about a year during the pandemic, which is in South Carolina, and that state's run by Clemson and USC, the Gamecocks.
Yep.
And man, when I would bring up UCLA or Pac-12 football, I got laughed at. I was laughed out of the room. And they just have no respect, as they shouldn't. They have zero respect for Pac-12 or West Coast football in general, or anything pretty much past Louisiana. They got no respect for.
Outside of USC making that run with Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush,
right.
And we're not talking about the USC of the 70s and some of those older teams that Rose Bowl teams and all that. Outside of that, like in recent college football, like the MO on the Pac-12 and the Pac-10 prior to the Pac-12, the MO on them was, they're going to try and score 55 points. But when you put a team that's got any kind of offensive or defensive line against them, they're going to crumble because they're just not built for that. They're not built to play defense, and they're not built to bully teams in the trenches. So you put an SEC team, a Big Ten team, any of those kind of teams against them, that's always been the stigma on them, I feel like. But USC is going to be a really good football team this year, switching gears a little bit. Caleb Williams is the Heisman Trophy favorite. He's the favorite to go 1 overall in the NFL draft next year. They got a lot of good players.
Kingsbury.
They're well coached.
He's back.
Huh?
Cliff Kingsbury, he's back.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury is back. And they're going to be a very good team. They're going to be a very good team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the playoff picture come the end of the year, because they're still playing in a Pac-12 that I think is I don't want to say depleted, but I think they're the best team by a good margin. I do think Washington will be tough because the quarterback at Washington, Michael Penix, is very good. He's very good.
Yeah, I mean, also USC always gets that USC
and is
treatment.
Bo Nix back again? Is Bo Nix
Bo
back
Nix is
again
back.
for
Yeah,
Oregon?
How long is this guy going to be in the league?
Yeah. So Oregon's Oregon will play tough with everybody because he's playing. So I mean, he's been around since Auburn. I mean, I remember watching that Auburn game against Oregon when he was the quarterback for Auburn in 2019, the summer of 2019.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's because of COVID, right? That these guys got more.
Yeah, they get the extra year. Yep. And listen, he had a lot of trouble at Oregon. Like, he stunk.
Yeah.
He stunk. And, but last year he looked good at Oregon. But again, you're playing in a conference where defense is kind of by selection. So it's, even USC didn't really have much of a defense to speak of last year. So
there are some of those guys in college football that just they seemingly play forever. Colt McCoy was one of them. Stetson Bennett has turned into one of them. And
I'm going to give you the ultimate one that was literally, it felt like this guy was on the team for 20 fucking years. And he plays wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders now. I'm sorry, Hunter Renfrow.
Oh, Renfrow, yeah.
It was like you watched every Clemson bowl game and Hunter Renfrow was making a catch in that bowl game. And you're like, Hunter Renfrow is still, he got to play for 6 years. That's what it felt like.
All right. Well, moving on here, we've got U.S. women's soccer. Mikey called it a few weeks ago or last week. They've been disappointing, and it was only a matter of time before they got ousted from the World Cup, and so it went. Mikey
Pathetic.
V. Yeah, Mikey V. Care to comment on your prediction there?
My only comment is that you know the eye test, the first group game against Vietnam, they're a 5.5 goal favorite. They only win 3-0, and at halftime I think it was only 1-0. Like that don't happen. Like the old women's teams would beat them 7-8-0. Like I knew right after the Vietnam game, I was like, okay, this team is not. Maybe if they bounce back, and they didn't. I think they drew the next game, if I'm not mistaken, and then they finally won a game after that, I believe, in the group stages. Or maybe they won the second game and then drew in the final, whatever it was. And then, they play Sweden. Here's the deal. They play them, first of all, kickoff was at like 5 or 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning. Time. Like, I didn't watch it. And then I saw the result, obviously. And I wasn't surprised. I mean, they weren't good.
Did you see the highlights? Did you see the highlights?
Yeah, I saw that. Well,
the Swedish goalie played incredible.
She did, but here's the thing.
She made a couple of unbelievable saves. Like, I think USA actually outplayed Sweden by a large margin.
Yeah, but it don't matter.
I understand that, but I'm saying they came into a hot goalie. Like, they should have won that game 2-3-0.
But I'll say this, in the third group game, because now I remember, they won the first game. They drew the second game, I want to say. And then in the third game, they had to draw or win that game to advance to the knockout round. I think they played Portugal, I want to say, in the third group game. And Portugal hit a shot. I want to say it was Portugal. I could be wrong, so don't crucify me on that. But in the end of that game, in the 80-something minute, Portugal hit a shot, and it went off the post. It literally rolled, and it would have went in 100%. The goalie was nowhere near it. It hit the post, and the U.S. escaped. They shouldn't have even been in the knockout round. They should have lost that game in the third group stage. I said they weren't good. They were the betting favorite. So I said, yeah, I think it's one of the worst flops in one of the worst flops in recent memory in sports. Because when you're the overwhelming betting favorite and you get knocked out like that and you really weren't impressive at all the whole way through, I think that was a major flop.
The post-game interview with the coach was obnoxious too. He's like, we showed what we're about, that we're courageous, that we fight hard.
No, you didn't.
It was pretty pathetic. It was hard to watch.
Yeah, no, you didn't. No, you didn't at all. You didn't at all. You didn't at all. I mean, if they got knocked out in in the semifinal, you could say something. If they won 2 knockout games and they made it all the way to the semifinal, or they made it to the final and they lost like a 1-goal game, or they lost in a penalty shootout there, you could tell me about how gritty
it was. Did you see the penalty shootout, by the way, though? It was pretty wild. There was they had 2 girls who shot the ball over the net, Mikey V, a la Baggio.
This happens. It
was like I got PTSD watching that thing. The ball just soar over the net. It brought me back to 96. Oh my Lord.
94. But yeah.
94 is 94 in 94. Atlanta.
Yeah, 94. But to say they were courageous, I mean, give me a fucking break.
It was a tough.
Give me a break. Ticket, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell me they were courageous and gritty and they toughed it out when they made it through the group stages by the grace of God, the skin of their teeth. They barely got by Vietnam. They should have lost in the third group stage game and not even made it to the knockout stage, and then they lose to Sweden in the first round as a favorite. Like, you didn't do anything. You weren't gritty at all. You were the opposite of gritty.
By the way, Team Canada was supposed to be one of the better teams too. They didn't even make it past the group stages.
Yeah. Listen,
pathetic.
France looks like a runaway.
Japan looks good.
Yeah, France-Japan would be a hell of a game. I would actually watch that. I would. If France plays Japan in the knockout stages, I'll watch that game. I'll probably watch the final.
Colombia looks pretty good too. It's been fun to watch some of these. Yeah, it's just like you said, the times are just awful.
Ugh. Yeah, I ain't getting up for
that. Where the hell is it being played?
I don't know. It ain't fucking Qatar. I can tell you that. It ain't Qatar.
They're in Australia and New Zealand.
Oh, that's right. That's why it is. It's a different part of the whole freaking world, man.
It's as far away as you can get. Joe, are you watching a lot of these games though? I knew you were a soccer fan. I didn't know you were a woman's
I'm watching the highlights because, like Mikey said, a lot of the games I haven't, but there was the Colombia game they played against Jamaica the other day was unreal. I watched the highlights the next day.
Colombia won 1-0, right?
And you know what I didn't realize? Jamaica, do you know that they got, Colombia won 1-0. Do you know Jamaica got sponsored by Bob Marley to go into the World Cup?
I did hear that.
It's like unbelievable. It's like Cool Runnings. It's like Cool Runnings, dude. They couldn't afford
That's a good
it.
story.
So he sponsored the whole team to make it into the World Cup.
See, that's a
And then they went on an unbelievable run. They went on an unbelievable run. They were supposed to lose, like get killed by Colombia. They lost 1-0 and they almost tied the game at the end of the game, like in the 88th minute. They almost tied it.
That's a feel-good story. It is. That's a
Tickets
feel-good
loving
story.
it. Don't worry.
He just cracked me.
About a thing. Even though you got knocked out. Oh, imagine the Rastafari playing on that plane or on that bus.
Rastafari, Mr. Reggae guy.
Oh my God.
All right, boys. Talking about clowns, how about a couple of guys in the MLB getting into a UFC fight here? Tim Anderson.
I thought it was great.
I got to agree with Joe.
I do too.
The MLB
I
needs more shit like this.
I agree. Yeah, Joe, take it away.
I'll tell you right now, the thing that grinds my gears about the MLB more than anything is after the end of the game, when like the teams lose and it's a hard fought game, they just walk off the field without a care in the world. There's no, like, it's not like in college football when these kids lose, there's kids with tears streaming down their face or like. But I'm saying, Mikey, is it not true? Like MLB, it's like, oh yeah, we lost. We have another fucking doubleheader tomorrow.
There's 164 of the fucking things.
Watching those guys fight and show passion, it showed something to me in Major League Baseball that I don't see regularly.
See, that's my biggest worry about the NIL deals. And I'm all for these guys getting money because they just make the universities way too much money not to be compensated in some way, shape, or form. But my biggest concern is that you're going to lose some of that element. And I think we've already started seeing it. Players opting out of bowl games unless it's the playoffs, right? Like college football now, like the big time players just don't play in the bowl games anymore. The bowl games don't fucking matter outside of the playoffs.
They don't.
So I do think that expanding the playoff field is going to help alleviate some of that. But to Joe's point, what I'm trying to say, bringing it back, is like you see that kind of passion in college all the time because, you know, these guys weren't making money. They're really playing still just because the love of the game and they're trying to make it pro and whatever it is. But in the MLB, that fight really wasn't much of a fight. Tim Anderson got knocked the fuck out. I mean, he squared up and he squared up like he knew what he was doing. And Ramirez just, I mean, he caught him square. It looked like what I would have done to Jake Paul if I had like a year and a half to train.
All right.
It's almost like a slap punch.
Yeah.
The best part was if I had 2 years to train nonstop, 2 years, every day I could train and not worry about my full-time job, not worry about my children. I just got to train for 2 years. You don't think I could fight? You got 100 pounds on him. Yeah.
So what?
You're going to kick his ass. Yeah, of course. Because you have 100 pounds on him.
Would you make weight a 185, Mikey V?
No.
No,
I can't. I think my bones weigh more than 185.
Would you meet him at 200?
I would have to shut out my vitamin D.
Would you meet him at 200?
Bone density. What?
Would you meet him at 200? Would you meet him at 200?
I would meet Jake Paul. Man, I don't know if I could get to 200, man. I don't know.
Mikey V, can I tell you something? I think he'd knock your ass out.
What?
Joe, that's two times. That's 2 times this week you've stuck a dagger into my heart. But
you gotta listen to me.
Time.
This is
the first time was the wedding questions. Now the second time.
It's not meant to be a shot at you, dude. This guy, I watched him the other day. He's a legitimate
I said,
boxer.
give me 2 years, Joe.
Yeah, give him 2 years.
You're forgetting the 2 years.
Nate Diaz has fought his whole life. He couldn't even keep up with him.
He wasn't a boxer.
You're not a fighter.
But Nate Diaz is a fighter though. Like if he was just a fight, if it wasn't in a boxing ring.
Yes. That's different though. I'm saying if you were in a boxing ring, it's a different world.
I don't know if you can get past this reach, Joe. This is a long reach.
It's a long reach. But I've actually.
That's why there are weight classes, by the way, is because you
throw the weight classes out the window.
Throw it out the guy.
But what I'm saying is, well, there never used to be weight classes in the old UFC. That's for sure. Remember they had like the giant guys go. But my point is that it's just like I said in the Brilliant Dumb Show, I can't stand him. I think he's a piece of shit. in terms of like personality. But I actually respect what he's done, man. He's a legitimate boxer.
I'm starting to come around.
I didn't.
He was so much better than Nate Diaz, man. It wasn't even close. It was.
Did you see him come out on the tank though? He is such.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's a piece. I know. I'm not denying
this
that.
This guy's such an asshole, man.
He does that specifically so we talk about it.
Correct. Yes, of course.
What about the Transformer that's at every fight? How obnoxious is that?
Yeah, but anyway,
I like the Transformer. I like
all that being said, more fights in the MLB would be preferred.
Especially
I'd like it every once in a while.
I like when they get in guard like that. Like they did, like they threw their dukes
up. Tim Anderson fucking squared up. He put his fists up. He went fighting Irish on this guy, like old school.
Yeah, he threw him up like he was a 1940s
like
drunk
putting
Irish.
The dukes up. Putting up your dukes. Put up your dukes.
He looks like the Fighting Irish.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah,
put up your dukes. Yeah. And he got knocked the fuck out. He got embarrassed. But
I think every league should allow fighting.
I mean, the NHL does. And I tell you what, again, I'll go back to the NHL. I'm looking forward to NHL playoff hockey next year. But I need the playoff spread was.
But the only spread was being buttered regularly with NFL over. With NHL
I saw a couple of people actually comment on that post, speaking specifically to the NHL, waiting for NHL picks to come back around.
It was great to see you diversify.
Yeah, you have to. Like Wu-Tang said in the Chappelle Show, you got to diversify your bomb.
The portfolio is no good if you don't diversify.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to a topic that I'm really interested in talking about. Is Deion Sanders proposed for the Hall of Fame that there should be an upper room. There's all the guys who make the Hall of Fame, great for them, but there should be an upper echelon, the top 20, top 30 guys who are in that upper room. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Joey D. You don't care. You don't give a shit. Okay, Mikey V.
Have you been to Ken? Do you plan to go to Ken?
I've been to Ken.
Well, I haven't, and I have no plans on going. I know who the best of the best are. Why do they need a specific room?
Well, why do they need a Hall of Fame in general?
He wants Deion wants a separation between Hall of Famers and then like an elite group of Hall of Famers. Yeah. He wants another group of individuals recognized for being above Hall of Fame. So like, I don't know what you would call it. He calls it an upper room. I think that's a dumb fucking name.
All world.
Yeah. Like all world or legend.
I like just elite, or legends. Yeah, legends good too.
Legends.
Regardless, there is a Hall of Fame.
Would you say like 60 to 70% of the guys who are getting inducted in the Hall of Fame are already almost legendary status to begin with?
No, not 60 to 70.
Yeah,
no.
They let 9 guys in now a year, I think, right? Is it 9 guys a year?
Terrell Owens in.
Yeah. And a guy like Devin Hester's not in the Hall of Fame, and he was eligible. Like I thought that was crazy. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, I think it's good he's not in the Hall of Fame. I think he's good. I think it's good. I think it's really, really good. Yeah. Guy's a bum. Guy played a combined 3 minutes. Right, that's how long it took for him to return.
He was a game changer.
I'm fucking around.
Okay,
anytime you're the best at your position, you should be in it. He's the best.
That's my
of all time.
The only guy who holds a candle in the wind to him was Dante Hall. Hall
was he the Kansas City Chiefs guy?
Yes. Yeah, the X Factor.
He was unbelievable.
The X Factor.
Yeah,
he was good. But again, I think I'm not against legends. I think legends would be something really cool. And it should be voted on by all living members of the Hall of Fame. And they get to pick, X amount of guys for each position. They get voted on. Whoever gets the most votes, each position gets to be legend status. They give them a different jacket. They give them, a different display at Canton. I'm not against that. I think that's pretty cool. Because I do think the room gets a little crowded and it does water down a little bit. I think some of the guys that were, when Tom Brady gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, like Tom Brady's bust, and no disrespect to Brett Favre, who's in the Hall of Fame, but Tom Brady and Brett Favre are not. And Joe, this is no offense because Favre was a legend for the Packers. He's a legend.
Yeah, no, I'm not. But
arguing. I'm just saying, like Tom Brady is in a different stratosphere than most every other quarterback not named Joe Montana. and Johnny Unitas, like it's very difficult to do, but I think if the living players could vote on it, I think it would, that are already in the hall, I think it would be a cool thing. I do.
It just goes to show Deion thinks he belongs in that upper
Correct.
Well,
echelon.
of course,
That's
Deion
the bigger
does.
story.
Of course. Deion wants to be.
That's kind of a
be on the
narcissistic
board.
thing. For him to
he
say.
wants to be on the board of trustees for the Legends. I mean, that's what he wants to. He wants to be president, chairman of the board.
I like the idea of the upper room, but I like it for if you got to do it for each era. I would like a room specific
Pre-Super Bowl, post Super Bowl.
But each one gets 20 guys or 15 or whatever the number is for that era.
That's actually another good idea. Pre-Super Bowl legends, post-Super Bowl legends.
Yeah, and I like it for
Super
MLB
Bowl
too.
era, pre-Super Bowl era. That's what
Aaron Judge is going to be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't want Aaron Judge is going to, I'm saying baseball too.
Oh, baseball,
I think for baseball as well, I think that like there should be a different room for Ty Cobb than there is a room for Aaron Judge. I just think
the baseball
eras is different.
Hall of Fame is so bad.
What?
Is it really?
I've been there twice. I love it.
No, not Cooperstown. I'm talking about the voting and the geriatric dinosaur mentality of who could get in the fact that Pete Rose.
That is the crime. Ticket
and the fact that Barry Bonds. I mean, you got it. Let's just get the fuck over it already, because it's the best baseball players that ever lived. And if you're telling me that Pete Rose and Barry Bonds aren't in the conversation for top 10 players to ever walk the face of the fucking earth, if not higher, then I don't know what to tell you. Then you can't tell me you know baseball. And I'm not claiming to be the world's forefront authority of baseball, which I'm not at all. But I'm just saying that they need to change that mentality. That's a Hall of Fame in desperate need of some revamping in terms of who determines what the fuck goes on there.
Mark McGwire, too.
Any of those guys. Sosa, McGuire, Roger Clemens. I mean,
certainly him. Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking nuts. It's nuts.
The Rocket was one of the best of all time, man.
I mean, come on. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
I agree.
I
agree.
How many guys are in the Hall that didn't get caught? Quite a few, I bet. Quite a few, I bet.
Yeah, fair enough, Mikey V. It's a good point. I like the idea of just having that upper echelon for each different era.
I like it too.
Unitas is different than Manning, and Brady's different.
Totally
than
different.
Totally different kind of thing. All right, and let's move on to the hottest new segment on the internet.
Who's the problem?
Who's the problem? Joey D, let's start with you. Who's the problem this week, man?
John Rahm is a problem, and I actually love John Rahm, but I don't know if you've heard what he proposed. He said,
"Oh, this is a great guy, isn't it?
One of our guys, right?
I love him. I'm not saying I'm not
Callaway. No,
I'm not saying I'm saying it's a problem because they said if he could change anything on the PGA, not money, not prize structure, not anything. Mm-hmm. You know what he said he would have, Tick? He would want a porta-john on every single hole because he doesn't want to pick and choose when he has to take a shit. And apparently,
you think that's a problem? I respect.
I like it.
I think it's absurd. I kind of it's hysterical. But apparently, do you know in the Masters Championship, he stopped 7 times to go to the bathroom in the final round. 7 times.
He was like Cougs at the Yankee game.
This guy's bowels are working harder than his fucking putting stroke. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Could you imagine if you got asked? And just to think, the LIV just merged with the PGA, and he's asked, "What would you change if you could change? Give me a porta-john on every hole."
I tell you what, there's a guy who's so comfortable with his game. The only thing he's worried about is taking a dump.
Taking a shit.
That's it.
God bless him.
Well, do you see the amount of sandwiches? You see the amount of sandwiches they bring to him on the course too?
Yes.
No wonder he's shitting all the time.
He's eating the entire round.
I tell you what, Rahm looks real comfortable, bro. Like
sure
around
does.
the midsection, like he looks like he's a comfortable guy.
He
ain't running on the treadmill, 2 times a week, even 1 time a week. I don't think. Which is fine.
He's a well-built boy.
Yeah. He looks it.
It was funny when we were talking to him about our taco challenge. Well, remember, Tick, we did the sound bites for Callaway where they watch like the different things.
Yeah.
And he watched us doing our taco challenge, and he goes, taco challenge, I could do that tomorrow. And he was telling about how he used to go to Jack in the Box when he was at Arizona State, and he'd have like 12 to 15 tacos he'd get for like $1.
I could see that easily. I could see that easily with John Rahm.
He's something else. I actually love him. When I'm saying he's a problem, I'm doing it in a joking fashion because I actually do love John Rahm. I just thought it was hysterical and just absurd that if you're asked one thing to change with the merger with Liv and PGA going, the money this guy just omitted. He omitted millions and millions of dollars to not go to Liv. It's not about, I want more money. It's like, yeah, give me a Porta John on every hole so I can shit whatever I need to.
Good for him.
All right, Mikey V, who's your problem this week?
All right. Listen, I watched the new Netflix Johnny Manziel documentary last night, and I knew the backstory, the general backstory that, that was my era. I lived through the Johnny football era at A&M. I remember them beating Bama. I remember him winning the Heisman very vividly when he beat Manti Te'o out with the fucking weird girlfriend that was fake thing. That was a weird time in college football. Very, very bizarre. First and foremost, when I was about to start the documentary, I saw the runtime, and the runtime was 1 hour and 12 minutes. And I said to myself, there's one episode of this and it's only 1 hour and 12 minutes. I go, they're going to cover everything in 1 hour and 12 minutes.
I said the same thing.
I'm through 45 to 50 minutes of this thing, almost an hour in, and they're just getting to him getting drafted by the Browns and everything that happened before that and during that process. They skimmed through the NFL portion in 15 minutes, and it wrapped up so bizarrely, and I don't want to spoil it. So if you haven't watched it, maybe skip past this, but basically he didn't study the playbook ever. He logged 0.00 hours on his playbook.
He actually went like this. He actually admitted it. He went like this.
Yeah. And then he, like, his best friend, who was his manager throughout all of college, he stopped talking to him completely.
Yeah, and the guy, I didn't understand that. Why
the guy did not wrong him. He was just like, we had to just move on from him, which was insane. They were best friends since high school, grew up together, whatever. He did the zero thing. He was like, kind of like, almost like, it seemed like he was proud of it. Went into how he got diagnosed as bipolar, went into how he wanted to kill himself, went into all the remorse about how he partied too much and he did this. But there was I'd never for 1 second watching felt like he was genuinely remorseful about a single thing that he did. He pissed off his parents greatly to no end.
His dad was trashing him on it.
He pissed off his sister. He pissed off his best friend. He pissed off an entire city, Cleveland, who thought he was going to be the savior. Okay, whatever. You don't care about them. I get that. He pissed off an entire football organization. He was completely unprofessional. I get it. I get it. He didn't want to play football anymore. That's what I took out of this, was that once he was past his freshman year of college football, he basically said he lost all the desire to practice and train the way he did. And he basically just shit on everybody that was trying to help him. And he basically disregarded everybody, it seemed like. But the issue I have with Manziel is that there seemed to be no remorse whatsoever for anyone that he wronged. It was kind of just like, yeah, I fucking loved it. I was Johnny fucking football, this, that, and the other thing. And you know what? That's all well and good. But at this point, like, that doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, what does that mean? Like, yes, you're a legend at Texas A&M. Yes, people will remember you forever probably. But at this point, what are they going to remember you for now? Like, they're going to remember those legendary things you did, but they're also going to remember, if they watch this, like kind of like what kind of like a semi scumbag you kind of were, bro.
Whoa.
Like, no offense.
Whoa,
like,
he's a friend of the program.
Whoa,
yeah, guys, but listen, man, I can't just sit here and fucking lie to everybody. I watched it with my own eyes. Like, and then for him to say all the stuff about substance abuse, that, and the other thing, and the end of the Netflix show, he's sitting there on his patio drinking a beer. And I'm thinking to myself, I thought there was going to be like a redemption song here. I thought he went to rehab, which he did. I thought, he was going to be sober, and he's sitting there drinking a beer. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, it just doesn't seem like anything changed really. And maybe that's why they glossed over the NFL portion of his career, and the post NFL portion was wrapped up in like 15 minutes.
He played in the CFL. They didn't cover that.
They didn't cover that at all. Like,
there's a lot of other stuff that
there's
they
a
didn't
lot
cover.
of stuff. All like the stories about what happened when he went out, they didn't really cover. So I don't know if he had a part in saying what you could and couldn't cover.
I will say,
which is fine.
And
you met him. You met him, Joe. You have a different.
I love him.
He was
fine.
I love him.
I will say this, like, talking to him and meeting him.
I'm sure he's a great time. That I can tell you.
Well, yes, for sure. But not only that is when you meet him, you could see he's a very genuine guy. Like when you meet him in person, and he has so much swag. Oh my God.
I didn't see you going that way. You were
No, but I'm saying
right.
I'm just saying on a side note for a guy who hasn't been in the league in years, he's got swag. But not only that, he's a good dude. Like he's a guy like you could call up and he'd just be bros with. Like he gave us time. He was super kind, and like when you talked, he looked at you, he gave you attention. Like he seems like a good dude. Like I just think like it goes to show that he had all the talent in the fucking world. But if you don't have good people in your corner, like if you don't have like people like if I'm being honest, of that whole episode, my favorite thing was watching his agent talk. He was so entertaining to listen to, and how he was trying to like get him in line.
I think he had people in his corner, though. That's the thing. I think he had people in his corner that wanted him to succeed, that wanted him to prepare,
but he also had a lot of negativity. He had a lot of shit like that. Was when you blow up overnight like that, like it's very hard. And this is like, and it's like to a lesser extent, we talk about Perez and how he's blown up. It's not the same as Johnny Football, but when you blow up overnight like that, your whole world changes. He was a guy that people didn't know. And then he's talking about how he couldn't go out, in public without people taking paparazzi photos and this and that. And then you're hanging out with Drake and you're hanging out with this one and you're with LeBron James, and like, it's very hard. You gotta remember, he was a young guy. He was in his 19, 20 years old. Like, that's hard to not let it get out of your realm. So I agree with what you said. But I'm saying that I have a huge role into realizing that, like, it kind of got away from him.
For the record, I have literally zero issue with Johnny Manziel's actions from the time he was in high school until the time he left the NFL. Zero issue with any of his actions. Now, would I have done things differently if I was in his shoes? Yes. Do I think other people should take things a little bit more seriously when they reach the professional level of football? Yes. Could I say that I would have done it differently if I was that age without knowing what I know now? Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe I would have done the exact same shit, and I probably would have. So I have no issue with that. My issue is that Johnny Manziel, as of 2023, to me, seems like a guy who should have, if he hasn't already, apologized to a lot of people, which he may have done, because, again, I don't know him. So maybe he may have, and should show a little bit more remorse, not in a morbid way of, like, showing remorse, like, oh, my God, but, like, showing, like, like, I really, like, made some really terrible decisions. I hurt people. I hurt a lot of people. And you know what? And if he can identify, the scariest thing to me, and the scariest thing is that he can identify why he hurt people. He knows it's because he had a drug problem. He knows it's because he hasn't, he was partying too much, alcohol, drugs, whatever. He can identify the problem. But the fact that he's still drinking, and they showed another clip of, like, him basically doing, like, beer bongs with his buddy at the beginning of the whole thing. They show him in his backyard, like, and I can't judge that, because I love doing the same shit. But when you're a person who identifies as that as your cause for your downfall and the cause of your disinterest, I agree with that.
Yes.
That scares me that you can't take
I agree with what you're saying
to fix that. Like, it actually, you know what? I should rephrase everything I said about Manziel. I actually am more concerned about how it ends for Johnny Manziel, considering the bipolar, considering the suicidal ideation. I'm actually more concerned with him as a person, as a human being, than I am, like, condemning him as not a good guy.
But Mikey, I'm over that. It takes a lot of balls to show up on a documentary like that and admit things like that that
But
people
Joe,
are watching
Joe,
and saying that you had a drug problem.
Guy, Joe, you're a sharp guy. Have you looked at his Instagram in the last 24 hours? He is pushing more. He's pushing more merchandise for Johnny Manziel. It's a lot of money, Joe. Don't think that he's doing this Netflix documentary for charity, for church. He's not. He's not. He's going to make, he's relevant again. He's going to be the topic of conversation again. And he's selling it. There it is. Money Manziel. And that,
look, that's a rotating mannequin.
And listen, I got no issue, obviously, no issue with the hustle. None whatsoever. My concern is with him as a person and his longevity as a healthy person. And I'm not the picture of health. I'm just saying, when you can identify what your problem is, but you still haven't taken the steps to remedy it, from what I could see from the outside, and maybe I don't know shit, that's frightening. That's all I'm going to say.
By the way, number one show on Netflix right now
is Manziel.
Well, because it also just came out. So
Netflix it came out last night. It's going to run. Yeah. It's going to run.
I met him too. I liked him a lot. Good guy.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, if he's got problems and he's not addressing them, that's a problem.
Watching him beat Bama again was pretty sick. When he says, I'm going to score a touchdown right fucking now, and he goes out.
Cool. One of the most vivid college football memories I have. I remember watching him run around. You thought he got sacked. He didn't get sacked. He was incredible. His freshman year, he was, there's no other word to describe him but incredible, his freshman year. And then after that was it.
Also, people who bag on him for his football career, I don't know. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you love something. And I always got the impression with him that everyone put so much pressure on him to be this guy for the NFL, to be the next great quarterback. And I don't think he ever wanted that for himself. And I think people projected a lot of their own ideas onto him. And when they didn't meet those ideas, people got disappointed. But those weren't his ideas for his own life. Now, I don't know that. I didn't talk to him about that. That's the impression that I always got.
But he says that. He basically says
he does.
He basically, he goes, I didn't love the game. And he goes, as soon as he got to NFL training camp, he's like, this is not fun. He goes, I don't like this. So,
on another note,
I respect that. I respect that. I do.
On another note, imagine going on a $5 million bender.
I wouldn't survive. I wouldn't survive.
Perez would be the only one who might be able to succumb it.
Yeah, Perez, for all we know, may have been on a $5 million bender somehow.
Was it a gambling bender?
No, partying Vegas.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you got to watch it. I will say it's an entertaining documentary. It's
I want to watch it. Yeah.
Oh, it's it's worth it. Listen, it's short. It's an hour. It's definitely worth your time.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So I met him and I liked him. But to Mikey's point, I think he made a lot of good points, but I want to talk about a real scumbag. Okay. Oh, Joe, you got a question?
Could you send Mr. Anderson the picture that we have of Johnny Manziel is about ready to take a putt and Ticket's huddled behind him with the camera? It's one of the greatest photos I have ever seen of all time.
It's great.
Ticket was like, when we got the photo, he's like, I've made it on Barstool Sports. It's an amazing photo.
It did really well.
Can you send it to Mr. Anderson?
I'll send it to him.
It's a great photo, man.
Yeah, that photo did well for you on Instagram.
You should post it up. Manziel's a hot topic right now.
If I was a single man, that would be on my dating app profile. That would
probably... Ticket. You should throw that up as an Instagram post. It's relevant right now.
That's true. Oh,
it's the number one show on Netflix.
You're starting to think like okay, got you. You're hustling. All right.
I'm trying to get your Instagram back up and running.
You're right. Hey, it's been humming.
It is. I'm more.
But I got a problem for you guys, and it's someone who Joe knows I've had a problem with for a long time. Anthony Davis signs an extension with the Lakers. This guy is about as useful as a poopy flavored lollipop. This guy's paper. This guy, I can tear him in half. His bones are made of glass. And I'm not saying when he's on the court, he doesn't make a difference, because of course he does. His talent's there. He was awesome
this year.
He was awesome this year. But anytime the Lakers look to him to be you won us the last 10 games. Awesome. Great. The Lakers are back. And then they make the playoffs. and he folds, not because he's not competent as a player, not because he doesn't have the talent, but because he can't stay healthy. This guy spends more time in street clothes on the sidelines at Staples Center than he does dressing for a uniform in Lakers gold and purple. This guy is a problem. And I don't know, I forget what the GM's name is. He was
Pelinka.
This guy's a fucking moron, okay? And he's borderline the problem too. He's borderline the problem too.
He's been unbelievable.
Why would you
the adjustments that he made mid-season to get rid of Westbrook? Why would you
sign a glass sculpture to play center for the Los Angeles Lakers for the next 3 years?
They need him.
They need him? Go get someone.
It's a position of desperation in the league. That position is a position of desperation.
You're the Lakers. You're not the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I understand.
You have a lot of pull. You can get someone other than a broken down fucking old Chevy truck. This guy stinks.
When he's healthy, he's a top 10 player.
That's the thing, is when he's healthy.
Yeah, the when he's healthy thing. If you're prefacing any player in any professional sport when he's healthy, the guy's usually a disappointment, typically.
Always.
But
the Lakers need him to be their guy because LeBron's done.
They've needed him to be their guy for 3 years now, and he keeps not being their guy, Joe.
Best quality is reliability.
Yeah, I mean, the guy can't yell at his fucking knee or his body to. I mean, listen, some of the things. The last injury he got was wild. What was it, Tick? He went down in a heap. It was
the one when he went down
with his head or something. Yeah. That was outrageous.
Something with this guy.
It looked like he was concussed. He went down like a sack of bricks, dude.
He did.
It was pretty bad.
A sack of potatoes.
Oh, it was bad. But he is, and he did have he was the defensive player of the year. He was unbelievable this year. I think he averaged more blocks than anyone in the league. He's a force at the rim. Ticket, if he stayed healthy, he is by far one of the most dominant players aside of Nikola Jokic in the league.
And you know what I have a problem with? Is his durability. He can't stay healthy, Joseph. He can't. There are players like this across all sports. Football, there are guys who just cannot stay healthy. Andrew Luck would still be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Couldn't keep away from the concussions. Mikey V, a couple weeks ago, started talking about Tua. Tua's going to be one of these guys who just, and if he could stay healthy,
I hate to say this about one of my beloved Yankees, and he's the big ticket item. But Aaron Judge, outside of last season when he broke the AL home run record, outside of that season, and that was his contract year, which is a little discouraging, a little shaky to look at. Outside of that year, this guy's hurt every year. Hurt again this year. Missed
a ton of games.
3 months of games this year.
Now he got hurt in a highlight reel catch, Mikey
V. Joe, I understand that, and I get that, and he's a highlight reel. He's a walking highlight reel. There's no question. But Stanton and Judge are two guys who they're great. Stanton's got all the talent in the world, and sometimes he looks unbelievable, and then he takes lapses of games off. And he gets hurt. Soft tissue, hamstring, calf, quad, this, that. What was Judge's other big one? Not the ab. What do they call the fancy word for the ab? They always call that. I forget. Fucking whatever.
Pectoral or no?
No. But guys who are just, they're great when they're there. But if they're there, you better enjoy the time because it ain't going to last long.
Giancarlo also turned into like a Ryan Howard or an Adam Dunn, one of these guys who, if he's not hitting a bomb for 600 feet, he is striking out every single fucking. This guy doesn't hit for singles anymore.
No.
Guy doesn't hit for even doubles anymore. This guy is striking out over 200 times if he can stay healthy that long to strike out that many times.
Well, and that's exactly right. That's exactly.
Oh, Tick with the mic drop there.
No, he's right. He's right. He's
good time to move on to the viewer questions, guys. We've got a ton this week. One comes from a young man named Nick Castellanos. I don't think it's the Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, I think it may be.
Could you imagine that, Tick?
Nick Castellanos from the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah.
Who was brought up by the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah,
played for two of my favorite teams of all time. If it's Nick Castellanos, make yourself known.
Read it. You have to read it regardless.
Make yourself known. But if it's not, we still love you. We love all fans of the Sportsmen here. This comes from Nick Castellanos. Professional disc golf. Should it be on ESPN?
Fuck no. Next question.
Now, if that is the real
Nick
Castellanos, that's a tough question.
I'll give him a little something more. Listen, I'm an avid Can Jam player. I'm a three-time beach Can Jam champion. Defending back-to-back last 2 vacations. So I'm a disc guy. But I got to tell you, I've watched the highlights of the disc golf. I would rather see Ultimate Frisbee on ESPN than I would the disc golf.
Intense.
Ultimate Frisbee is fucking wild, man.
And
I've played it before, and it is.
What is the Ultimate Frisbee again?
It's kind of like football. No tackling, obviously, but you advance to score touchdowns in an end zone. You catch the disc in an end zone. Joe, you have to see these guys throw the disc and how they catch. Some of these catches of the Frisbee are just Google some of the highlights of Ultimate Frisbee over disc golf. I'm sorry, but disc golf to me, after a while, I've watched it.
It's kind of underwhelming. You see the thing go in the net and it's like, okay, it went in.
Ultimate Frisbee.
These guys take it fucking serious though.
Yeah, they do.
The disc golf, man. They're talking about handicaps and par 3 and par 4. And I'm like, yeah, man. All right, whatever.
You're a Can Jam guy, huh? I feel like that's an East Coast thing. I played Can Jam all growing up.
Boy.
I'd like to see you out there on the can. I like to see
you might see him in
you
Florida.
You would if you're on my team. You certainly would.
I used to be a player. All right. Thanks for the question, Nick Castellanos. This one comes from Vincent, no last name. If you were a professional athlete in the NFL, what would be your ideal game day outfit? Especially excited for Joey Daw's answer. So why don't you go last? Mikey V, let's start with you.
Suit. I would wear a custom suit to every game. I would wear a custom suit to every game. Now, the custom suit and tie every game, or a custom jumpsuit, like a velour jumpsuit, or
that's what I was gonna say.
Like a training jogger
like
suit.
A Gucci velour suit would be fuego.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do Gucci. I don't. Like, no, it's too
sure you would. Money, you would, Mikey. Sure you would. Yes, you would.
Maybe if it was a plain color. I'm just
not with the logo, but with the
not
Gucci
the
red, red pattern down the side.
I tell you what, if Gucci hits you up in the DMs, you're fucking taking whatever.
Come on.
He'd wear a fucking Wendy's velour suit if he had to.
I would. Right, I would wear it.
And have junior bacon cheeseburgers down.
He's bringing the biggie bag with him, just all the way there.
Fucking Wendy's, man.
Oh, okay.
We love her.
Joe, I thought you were going to go with the Lululemon.
No, I would wear normally a suit, but I would wear once in a while. I would wear something that's pretty flashy. Like the velour suit to me is with like some loafers, like some real money, like some Gucci loafers or something like that. Be pretty sick.
Like, who's the swaggiest guy in the NFL? Right? It's got to be Burrow. No, it's got to be Burrow.
Have you seen Mahomes?
Yeah, Mahomes
has some
got some good stuff. I just think Burrow is just Burrow makes it, his stuff is just
Justin Jefferson's pretty swaggy too. Justin Jefferson's pretty I would go
Mikey V with the grill would be next level.
I should talk to Al the jeweler. Maybe he can
Oh boy. I would just go with some Red Wing boots, denim pants, flannel. It doesn't matter whether it's
flannel every time,
100 degrees, or I'm playing in Lambeau and it's 0 degrees.
It would be fucking Kirk Cousins. He would be Kirk Cousins.
I have a question.
That's what he wears, bro.
He wears
like fucking dad outfits. Yeah.
Fuck,
bro.
I got to change it up.
Yeah,
I can't be looking like
but Tickett's flannel is much swaggier than Cousins' flannel.
Yeah, and he's definitely not wearing Red Wings too. So.
And he's not wearing skinny jeans like Ticket.
Red Wings.
And I'm also talking vintage denim on the jeans too. I'm not talking about Wranglers off the rack.
Naturally, vintage.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Naturally. All right. Thanks for the question, Vincent. This one comes from Dylan Haw. Mainly a question for Mikey V. We love these, but all three can answer. Longtime NFL watcher from Ireland, but never had a team, decided to become a full-time Bears fan and wondering what the boys think I should expect from following them for a long time. Long-time listener, first-time texter, big love. So what should he expect? For a guy from Ireland, what should he
A
expect?
lot of disappointments.
Yeah, yeah. But a guy from Ireland, I feel like, he's not a jaded American fan who expects to win all the time. I like people from Ireland. Love the accent. Big fan of the accent.
Sure.
This year, what you can expect, this is not their year. This is not their year. I've been saying it that next year really is when they're going to go through another round of having tremendous draft equity, having tremendous amount of money in free agency to spend. Next year is the do or die year for this team. This year, what I'd like to see again is just obviously improvement overall from the team, which would translate to some more wins. I'd like to see them contend for maybe the last wild card if possible. I just want to see Justin Fields solidify himself as the guy. That is the most critical thing to come out of Chicago this year. Justin Fields solidifying himself as the guy. If he doesn't, then we're back to square one a little bit. We got a little bit of insurance because we have the 2 first-round picks next year, so there's a little wiggle room there, but that's the main concern for this year.
I have a question, Mikey. DJ Moore, is he a top 10 receiver in the league this year?
Probably top 15. Because I won't say top 10 only because I don't know how efficient their offense is going to be from the passing game. I got to see it first. I got to see what they're installing. I got to see how Fields responds from the pocket, being more of a pocket passer. I just don't know what that's going to be yet. So I say top 15. But I think DJ Moore is a true one. I'll say that. He's a
Chase
true
Claypool one. Over under 3.5 touchdowns on the season.
Over. Way over.
Oh,
Way
so
over.
okay. So you have some expectations.
Claypool, from every beat writer, from everything I've read, from everything I've seen, is having the best camp out of any player.
Fuck off. No way.
Mikey V, you changed your narrative. You were trashing him 3 weeks ago.
Joe, I was.
I believe you.
I want to bury the guy.
I want to bury the guy. I'm just saying he's no way.
He was your problem.
I hear you. I hear you. I wanted to bury the guy, but I'm just telling you what everyone who's at camp and all the beat writers are saying is that he is having by far the most impressive camp of anybody on that offense.
Those things always make me nervous, though. You know what's making
he tweaked his hamstring today, so that could be a thing.
You know what's making me? You know what's making me real nervous, Mikey V?
What?
Jalen Hurts is being put in the top 3 best football players on most people's list.
But that's by media
that's
stuff.
good.
What are the beat reporters saying?
That makes me very nervous.
What are the beat reporters saying? The guys who are at camp watching camp that are beat reporters. What are they saying about Hurts? What are they
I agree.
saying?
No, they're saying he looks great again. But I'm just saying,
good. I believe it.
I hate when a guy has one great season. And they're like, he's a top 5 guy now. Like Jalen Hurts is being put on all these lists right now, and that's making me.
I don't think there's
nervous.
I don't think there's any grounds to stand on to believe he would regress. Though he's got weapons upon weapons upon weapons. He's got a great offensive line still. He's got a very talented defense still. I could see if.
But we've seen a lot of guys in the NFL over the years have a great season. They're put at the top of all these lists. And then it turns out when you look back in history, 10 years later, they had that one great season. So it's it almost feels like a curse that he's being.
Hurts is going to have
propelled.
over 15 rushing touchdowns this year.
I hope so. I hope he doesn't get hurt rushing all those touchdowns, Joseph.
I think he'll have a big year also. I do. I
hope so. I sure do hope so.
That's just rushing touchdowns. That's not throwing. He's going to be unbelievable. And I would say he to me is the number 1 quarterback for fantasy. Not that Mahomes is not good, but with the amount that he runs and their offense, the way that it's 3rd down and 1 or 3rd and 2, and they have that play where they just try to push him in.
Whenever you get around the goal line, he's impossible. Like
I would say the fuck away from Philly running backs this year. I know you got the Lions. What's his name?
DeAndre Swift. Yeah.
From a touchdown standpoint, they suffer.
It just always makes me nervous, especially now that it's my team. But anytime I see a guy have one great season and they're just punched all the way up to the top of the list with names like Mahomes and Allen and these other guys, Hurts has had one good year. It just makes me nervous. It's almost like the Madden cover. It's almost like a curse.
Just be happy.
Listen.
Sure.
Jalen Hurts has the conference championship. Josh Allen, love the guy, nicest guy in the world. He doesn't. Jalen Hurts was to the dance and arguably should have won. at the dance. Performed very well at the dance.
Played well.
Very well.
Okay.
No reason to believe he regresses this year, Tick, unless he gets hurt. If he gets hurt, that's a whole nother conversation to be had. But if he stays healthy, I don't see why he would regress. And I have no dog in that race with the Eagles.
It's true. All right, good question. We'll move on to, let's do two more. We'll do I like this one from John Longo. $1 million now, or $25 million if you make a layup, followed by two or two free throws, followed by a 3-pointer. So you get $25 million if you make a layup, 2 free throws, and a 3-pointer, or you can just take $1 million.
Well, how many attempts do you have?
I think just one, and if that's the case, it's $1 million.
Give me the $1 million, and I'm not even looking back.
Yeah. I thought if you were going to say just make a layup for $25 million, I'd say okay.
Well, no, even the layup and the 2 free throws. So you add a 3-pointer.
Well, 2 free throws, you got to be. That's.
You know how much pressure you'd be shaking like a leaf.
Oh yeah, no.
I'll take the shots.
Yeah, you're nuts.
Fuck out of here, Ticket. You're so full of shit.
$1 million ain't changing my life.
Oh no!
By the way, we had this discussion on a Barstool Sports trip.
It ain't changing my life.
Okay. They said that in about the sports trip, Ticket and Perez made a claim, and it was Ticket and Bob. I don't know who it was.
It was me and Perez. It was me and Perez talking about
you and Perez made a claim that $20 million would not change your life, wouldn't be generational wealth.
No. What we said was it would change our life, but we are not retiring as a 30-year-old man off of $20 million.
Especially you guys got problems, bro.
Mikey
you guys
v.
got problems.
Mikey V.
You guys got problems.
You think in 40 years, 20 million is still going to be worth what 20 million will be in 40 years?
No, you invest.
Of course not. But you're in the tiniest.
Who says I invest well, Joe?
You're in the tiniest fractions of people who've ever come into that type of money ever. Number one. Number two, you don't even have to invest it. Just don't spend it. Just don't spend it.
Watch
it
grow.
Don't recklessly spend it. Don't buy a $10 million house. Don't buy a $5 million house. Buy a $1 million house or a $2 million house and keep it. By the way, $20 million. I'm doing the math right now. Okay, $20 million.
But you got
1% interest. You're making $200,000 a year, Ticket, just from leaving it in the bank.
Well, yeah, maybe.
That's more than like people make in like 3 years, 4 years.
I think if you give me $20 million, but I live like I'm making $80,000 a year, yes, of course I could make it.
You don't live like Johnny
the rest of my life. But I just think when you give someone that kind of money, ain't no fucking way they're going to live that way. And I just don't think it's going to carry you to the rest of your life. Let me
tell you something right now. You give me, any companies listening out there, you give me $5 million, I'll never ask you for another penny, ever. I'll sign a lifelong contract, $5 million.
But you'll still work though, Mikey. You'll still be working.
Yeah, I'll work. Yeah.
You couldn't take $5
million. But I'm making the $5 million. I want $5 million tax-free, and I'll work for you for the rest of my life.
And that's all you get for the rest of your from now.
All I get, but I get to retire. I get to retire at like let's give me a fair
55.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm in.
So Mikey V, from this moment now, you don't make a penny. You don't make a penny more than $5 million for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
from that company, no.
Yeah.
No. That's it though. That's from no other companies either. You could make $5 million work the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. I already got my house. I'll pay it off.
Ticket, the average American doesn't even make $100,000 a year.
I know, but if you look
what's the average income right now? 60
probably like
50?
65, 70,000.
I don't think it's 70, Joe.
60,000 maybe.
But if you look at when people take the lump sum when they win the lottery, they always go broke because when you give people
did you see? I'm sorry, we're so off the rails right now, but did you see that someone won that Mega Millions in Florida? A single ticket, 1.5 billion, $1.5 billion. Yeah. One single ticket. So if they take the lump sum, they estimated that it would be $789 million. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I could probably live off that for the rest of my life.
My kids,
we would all live off of that.
That's generational wealth.
I would just build a palace, and we could just do everything out of the palace. We could do the
Sure.
Sportsmen. Bob does sports. Brilliantly Dumb. We could just do it. We could just do that. That would be fun.
No, the thing is, if Bob had bought a ticket, he might have won.
He would have won. Yeah, he would have won. Yeah, he would have won. The guy just keeps winning. He's
Next
in Vegas
question.
right now.
I was gonna make a joke, but
he's in Vegas right now. He should put
I'm
5
gonna hit
cents
the
in
$1
his
billion
spot.
lottery. Be like, Mikey V, listen, next year it's retirement. Next year, buddy. Next year, bust.
Listen, that raise is coming your way.
Yeah.
Just keep working for it.
Pretty soon, Mikey V. I'm gonna change your life.
Coming like Christmas, baby. Oh my!
All
God.
right, let's
the average
do one
income.
more.
Though I'm curious about the average income. Average,
I think it's
income.
50 to 60,000 a year.
I think you're
Average
both
income
right.
in the U.S. Bro, do you know what it is, bro? As
45?
of 2019, so I guess this is the last time. They.
Oh,
they
but that's
updated.
fine. It's only a few years.
Well, the average salary in the United States is 58,000.
My God, man,
58,000. Now I don't know too many people that could survive making 58 grand
Well,
a year. With
depends on where
family.
you live. The middle of the country makes up a lot of that.
Yeah.
Well,
Very true.
probably both parents are working too. If
That's what I just said. A single parent with a family. I don't know how you could do that. I don't know how. I don't know how. Not with the price of gas
inflation and stuff
fucking
nowadays.
diapers and fruit. And I say fruit because my kids eat a lot of fruit.
Good
They
for
do.
them. Good for
Yeah,
them.
no,
They're
a
staying
lot of
healthy.
fiber.
All
Good
right, I
good
gotta
shits in this
piss
house.
like a racehorse. Let's get to this
Last
last
one.
question and get out of
This
here.
is a long pod, man.
It's good though. People like the long pods.
They do like the long pods.
People like to, you know what it is, Mike? People just love to put something on during work that they can. It's a fast forward button. So the longer you make it, I've learned that with Bob Does Sports, all the stuff that we do, it's like a fast forward button. So if we give them 2 hours, they're getting from 8 to 10 o'clock right away.
Yeah, that's
in the
nice.
morning.
Yeah.
All right. So the
I
last
can see
question, Tyler Crackra, who has the best sports theme song?
What does that mean?
Like the Ohio State, they have like a fighting song, right? Like they
I mean, but I don't know too many pro teams that have fight songs, right?
I have to say, "Fly Eagles Fly."
Come on,
On the road to
ticket.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I wasn't gonna go with that one. That's a good
Fly
one.
Eagles Fly on the road, to victory.
Jet
I don't know
told
any
me,
others.
Jet told me that the Bears have one. Bear down.
Bear down, Chicago Bears. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
So
That's
did
where
I
that
go.
that's where that comes from. Bear down, Chicago Bears.
I got to go with the Eagles one because I don't really know. I don't know many others.
I mean, college fight songs. I mean, there's so many good ones. Rocky Top. Obviously Ohio State's got a great one. Hail to the victors. While I hate Michigan, is I respect tradition and I respect greatness, and that's a great song. Hail to the victors, even though they could go fuck themselves. That's a great one. Oklahoma Boomer Sooners, another great one. Or is that USC? No, USC is USC.
You know what I like too?
USC is
I like
good.
the Atlanta Braves one. They go,
the tomahawk chop, but I mean the Chiefs
tomahawk
do
chop
that.
is
But
so
I mean the
good.
Chiefs, Florida State, and the Braves do that. A lot of teams do that. Any team was doing that, but
Yeah, that's true.
the tomahawk chop is tremendous.
That's awesome. I like that a lot.
I like the Hartford Whalers, the old hockey team, had one of the most incredible. If you look up that song that they used to have that played before their games, it's an unbelievable song.
What the fuck was
Fuck you, Mikey V.
What was it? I
Looking at
want to
me
know
like,
what was it? I'm just
you want me to sing the
wondering
whole
what it
fucking
was.
thing? Hartford Whalers. There's a whole fucking song. My dad.
It sounds bad.
My dad has the 45 record
All right.
on it.
I didn't mean
It's
to disrespect
fantastic.
bigger. I didn't
But-
mean to disrespect Bigger Ticket.
Bigger Tick, don't you ever
I
disrespect Bigger
didn't.
Tick.
I didn't.
Yeah, he's a good man.
I know he is.
We gotta
introduced
wrap
himself.
this.
And you know what?
I met him at the Breezy. Great.
That's
guy.
right. And he
Yeah.
did you see that post he had? He disrespected me. He
Oh.
disrespected the family. Where he posted me with the acoustic guitar, he
didn't
disrespected the
see-
family.
How could you do this to family?
No, but I'll go.
It's like when Fredo disappoints
Oh, God.
Corleone.
Yeah. I knew it was you, Fredo.
I'll go with John Denver Country Roads, West Virginia.
That's a great one.
That's
Yeah, that's big time.
That was a special moment in my life, special moment for that university, and a lot of weed was sold.
I'll do one other one, the Packers one, the I don't want to work. I just want to bang on my drum all day. When they hit that's fun. And Bob loves
really
that
their
song
though?
Well, that's what they play.
That's like saying Boston, like Sweet Caroline is the Red Sox.
Well, that's their celebration song.
Or like the Blackhawks, they do the Fratelli song where it's like what is it? It's like
I know that one too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a good one.
The Rangers have a good one too. Oh, and then they go. Oh, and the New York Rangers have a great one.
Sounds good.
You know what the bottom line is that the college fight songs are really good. The pro ones are like they just take a regular song and they say it's their song.
Well. So bottom line is Mikey V did not take this question seriously at all. I took it.
I named several songs. I named several good songs, Tyler, that you could go and look up at your leisure.
All right, boys. Another good episode.
We gotta end
this is a long one. Yeah, it's time to end it up. The Sportsmen.
Wrap it up.
Mikey V, Joey D, big ticket, big triple G _ ticket. If you guys have an in to get this ticket guy, the username to me, I would love to.
He needs it desperately.
But other than that, and if you know the cold cuts guy, but other than that, great episode. And gentlemen, I will see you guys next week.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Wait. We would be remiss if we did not mention that next week is the Sportsman Fantasy Football Spectacular.
Oh,
the Sportsman Fantasy Football Spectacular.
I'm calling it Fantasy
Mr. Anderson,
Fiesta.
you can always fucking count on me. You can always count on me.
The Fantasy Football Fiesta.
We will be taking all fantasy football questions. We will only be talking fantasy football. We will not talk about Tim Anderson. We will not talk about Megan Rapinoe or Rapinoe, however you say her name. Only fantasy football, the whole show, the whole time, right here on The Sportsman.
Wow.
Damn, that's good. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube and the Instagram to get those questions in, and we will see you folks next week.